So we're at the beginning of November now, and in fact the last allotment tour I did was in September. I didn't do one in October, and as you can probably imagine, there's quite a lot's changed. September is a really productive and busy month with lots going on, but nevertheless October and November are equally as busy. And when you look around the allotment today during this tour, I'm going to tell you some of the things that have changed, some of the things I've planted, some of the things that I harvested, and hopefully give you some ideas for your allotment or your garden. If you do like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe to the channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit and veg, 1 or 2 recipe ideas, then don't forget to press the subscribe button. So let's go and have a look around the allotment. So here we are, right by the entrance gate of the allotment, and you can see my polyhouse there, the back of it and the side. About a month and a half ago we had a free delivery of wood chips provided by our local parish council, which was very welcome, and I used mine for these back paths here, which we're responsible in our tenancy agreements for maintaining. So this is the back of the allotment where we're starting, and it's the worst area to start really, because it's straight into my overgrown area, which I've not planted anything this year because this was the area that I used for building my polyhouse. But next year this will be potatoes, so over the winter when I get a bit of nice weather, and I'll do a nice bit of winter digging and clear all this and get it ready for my potatoes, so it'll look very different. Next we have the raspberries, and the raspberries again this year have been, I would say, to use the word, prolific. So many raspberries. You can start seeing now at this time of year they're going to start to the leaves are starting to fall off, they're starting to go yellow, but there are still plenty of raspberries on there. You can probably see them just on the camera, so there'll be another few for me to pick there, but they are starting to slow down a bit now, and then when it comes to probably February or March, I'll cut back the raspberries. There is a video on my channel which shows you how I prune and cut back and maintain raspberries, and I definitely recommend you check that out to see what to do, because each year I always do very well with my raspberries. Behind here we have the rhubarb. Now I cut this rhubarb, when I say cut it back, I took all the leaves off, mulched it with my own homemade compost, and you can see it's still producing new leaves. They won't really amount to much now, and eventually I'll take those off, and over the winter period these will become dormant. But in early spring they'll start to reproduce all over again, and there's 12 rhubarb plants in this bed, and I get a huge amount of rhubarb every single year. Next we have our strawberries. There's quite a lot, 2 full bays of strawberries. I've got to weed those. They're at the moment in the process of just allowing them to grow really, let the runners grow, and with the amount of rain we've had over the last week or 2, that's only going to be good. And then when it comes to the new year, I'll tidy them all up. The new runners will become the new plants, and then I'll get the new plants planted in this area over here. The first 4 rows, which are the ones nearest to the green netting you can see, will be dug up because they're more than 3 years old, and therefore if I was to leave them in, they would produce strawberries next year, but they're likely to be quite small. So I'll be digging them up and planting new strawberries in that position. If you look to my channel on previous videos, there's a few videos on strawberries to show you my 3-year rotation plan. This is just the other side of that unsightly area which will be my potatoes next year, so we'll move on swiftly to this area here, which I'm really happy about. Here you can see where I've planted already. These are onion sets, you can see them already appearing, and here at the beginning there's just the start of my shallots just starting to show. So I've got 2 rows of shallots, 2 varieties of onion sets. The first half a dozen are a variety called Senshui, which are a Japanese white onion, and the other variety I've got is Red Baron, which by the nature of the name is a red onion. And then beyond that, in the same bed again, which I'm so happy with, is my garlic. This is a variety called Solar White, and I've only planted these about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and already I'm getting fantastic growth on them. That's brilliant. I'm really happy with them. Last year, if you look to my channel, there's a video on where I actually purchased garlic from a supermarket and planted it, and it grew, but it was very small bulbs. I didn't know what variety it was, so I made a decision this year to know the variety, and went and purchased garlic from a seed merchant in a local market actually. This is just an empty bed. This is where my potatoes were. I'm probably going to put my brassicas in here next year. I haven't quite finalised my plan for next year. I'll be talking about that in future videos. I do have a way of planning my allotments, which I will talk about and share with everybody. I think it's going to be brassicas in there, but I'll let you know for certain in a short while. This bit over here is the last remains of the butternut squash. There are a few left. I've been disappointed with them this year, to be honest. I've had plenty, but they've only been small. In previous years, I've had very large butternut squash. There's a few parsnips in here, a few celery left, and this is where my French beans and mange too were. They've all now been harvested, and I've also got the seeds from for next year. Here's my kale. Very pleased with these. We've had a really great supply of kale. You probably might not be able to see too well within the netting because there's not too many left now because we've used them, but they are fabulous. This is a variety called dwarf green curled, and I'm definitely going to be growing that again next year. A few leeks here, looking okay. They've recovered actually. They weren't doing too well a few weeks ago because they were right next to sweet corn, which was now being dug up and harvested. Now they've got their own space and a bit more light. I think they're going to be okay. I'll leave them in the winter. Next is a bit of an experiment. I've got a row of Swedes and a row of turnips, which I'm growing to keep outside over the winter period. They're looking pretty healthy actually. They've been battered about by the rain today. They're looking okay. So I haven't even netted them or anything. I'm just experimenting with them. And over here, this bed looks empty, but it's not, because 2 weeks ago I planted my broad beans. And these are a new variety for me called Valenciana, which are an overwintering variety. So again, just check out the channel in future to see how they are getting on. Over in this bed here, at the end, we have spinach, which has been amazing this year. I've mentioned this in previous videos. The seeds were given to me by Andy, one of my allotment friends here at the allotment, and I don't know what variety they are, but we've been cutting it, eating it, and it keeps growing back. Absolutely brilliant. So definitely going to be asking Andy for some more of those seeds for next year. This bed here, which is we've just took the last of the lettuce out. That's why the wheat's a bit weedy, but that'll be dug all over and cleared out. So that's been absolutely brilliant. And in this bed here, this final bed here, we have the Brussels sprouts. I've kept them netted completely. They're just starting to produce the sprouts now, which, if you know anything about sprouts, will be at the junction of the leaves and the main stem. Very, very tiny. You probably can't even see them. But hopefully I'm going to get a good crop of sprouts near Christmas. Then we've got cabbage here, a little bit eaten by caterpillars, but the hearts of these are going to be absolutely brilliant. I might take one of those out today. That's a variety called Cabis. This is where I had my beetroot. Now it's all dug out and that's just ready for planting for next year. And here, I think this has been the success story really of the year for me, with being the Swede. I can't describe how many of these I've had and how large they are. I don't know if you can see just through that netting the Swede that's in there. I must have had at least 2 dozen already, and there's loads more there for over the winter, and they are delicious. They're a variety called Helena. I managed to pick my last of my peppers, because when we go into the Polyhouse, which you're going to do now, you'll see that I'm overwintering them. I've added an extra bay on here. I was so happy with my compost which I put on my rhubarb. I added an extra bay, which is not quite complete yet, for compost, just to give me more capacity for my compost. So it's just allow that to be used for next year. I'll go and collect a load of leaves as well. And these beds here are, well, one of them is a sandpit for my grandchildren. There's a few spring onions in there and a few carrots, and then I've got my herbs, which I always love herbs. I am going to expand my growth of herbs next year. I'm going to be growing basil, parsley and other herbs. In there I've got rosemary, sage, chives, lemon balm and mint. So that's something that I'm going to expand on. So that's the outside of the allotment. As you can see, even though we're in November, there's still plenty growing and still plenty to harvest, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, I know a lot of people will use the main growing season as their cut-off point really, and then just let it go dormant over the winter. But I've tried to be a little bit more productive, I would say, over the last a couple of years. I'm going to show you in the Polyhouse now, which again, make sure you stay tuned for this because there's so much in here. It's well worth a look. So let's go to the Polyhouse. Already, before we even go in there, you can see there's loads of growth in the ground inside the Polyhouse, and this is why I had the Polyhouse built. This is why I wanted it, because I wanted to ensure that I could have vegetables over the winter period. So on the ground here, right near the watering can, I have a row of cauliflower. They're a variety called All the Year Round. Then just behind them are 2 lots of different Pak Choi. Pak Choi is great for winter salads, stir fries and other recipes as well. Then behind them, which are growing very well, are the row of turnips and row of Swedes, and that's why I said it's outside I was experimenting, because I didn't have room to put them all in here. So chuffed a bit with them. I mean, look how healthy they look. They look absolutely wonderful. They're interspersed with some lettuce, winter gem, in between, and there's some more winter gem just behind at the back, and also some spinach. Under that netting is Brussel sprouts, recovered amazingly well because there was a really bad attack by caterpillars. I'm really hopeful for them. So they look absolutely fabulous. And just behind them I have parsnips, and look how healthy they look, and look how high they are. I don't think I would get that growth outside. I think it shows the benefits of being able to use a controlled environment like a Polyhouse. At the back there's 2 blueberry bushes, and there's a few more last remains of beetroot and spring onions. Here, look at this. On the shelves I have spinach. So in the first little white tray is spinach. Look at that. I mean, that is amazing. I'm really happy with that. And then just beyond that, the next tray is something called Mizuna, which is a mustard leaf. So you can see how the Polyhouse has completely changed my approach to growing and given me a lot more capacity to grow different things. Behind the green netting, and again I'm so pleased with this, which is spring cabbage, is because this was attacked almost back to the stems by caterpillars. I took them all off, netted it all over, and just left them in to see what would happen. As you can see, they're growing really well, so I'm really pleased with those. And here, another experiment as well. I'm growing leeks indoors. They're a variety called Autumn Mammoth 2, and there's a few spares, even though they're mottled with leaves have been attacked a little bit. There are a few more spare Pak Chois. And finally, these are my overwintering peppers. I've just dug them out of the ground and put them in pots. So when the temperatures get really cold, because I've got them in pots, I'll be able to take them into an indoor environment, my potting shed at home, and give them a bit of protection over the winter, and then hopefully replant them. Because a lot of people don't realise that peppers are perennials, that you don't need to dispose of them every year. And finally, there's one final pepper here, which I've left in the ground, again as an experiment to see whether or not I can overwinter that inside an unheated Polyhouse. It may be that I'm going to have to mulch that with leaves, almost cover it, and then put some fleece over it in the harshest of temperatures. But from far as the Polyhouse goes, I can't tell you how happy I am with the growth and capacity that I have in here. It's absolutely brilliant. Well, that's the end of the tour. I'm just looking at the blue skies in the video behind me, and it's unbelievable because when I came to the allotment it was such aggressive rain and wind, and the weather has changed dramatically. So I'm really happy for that. It allows me to do a bit more in the allotment. I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and as you can see, I'm in November. There's already so much growth in my allotment, and I'm already thinking about next year. But do watch out for future videos, because I'm going to be sharing with you how I'm planning my growing for next season as well, so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing to give you some ideas. If you have any ideas about what you're growing this time of year as well, please pop them in the comments below and share them with others, because it's great for others to see what other people are doing, just to give them the ideas. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and if you do like the video, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to the channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit and veg, and 1 or 2 recipe ideas, then please press the subscribe button. And I'll see you all on the next video.